outside Topshop's flagship store on Oxford Street in London.
I'm standing among the many aromas of roasting coffee beans inside the coffee gardens of the World Expo.
I am standing on the Überbaum Bridge here in Germany.
Es ist heute in Arizona.
The reason that the Cronkite School does study abroad is to help the students understand more about the world in which they live.
As a journalist abroad, I would say, first and foremost, it was so exciting.
One of the great things about studying abroad is that it is a living classroom.
Life as a journalist abroad includes very little sleep.
I had the greatest time with the greatest people, and it kind of is like an episode of The Real World where you don't know anyone before and then you're kind of just thrown in together with just completely random people.
Some of my favorite things that I learned during the trip was just observing how different journalism is in different countries.
Well, this is my first time out of the country, so I learned a ton.
And it was so refreshing just to be in a foreign city and have the city welcome you so openly.
We got to visit, the BBC, we got to visit The Guardian, so no matter what you were really interested in as far as journalism was concerned, I got to go see their radio room, and that's what I want to do.
Being able to go to places like Edelman and being able to write them thank you cards, which I think is an important part of what our trip was about. Being able to have their emails, that's a huge connection that we were able to build that a lot of PR students may never get to if you don't go over there and go to the places, you can never make those connections, no matter how hard you try.
I really enjoyed going to The Guardian, and the guy we talked to offered a lot of advice for coming out of school and what news organizations are looking for, which actually altered my Cronkite path.
Europe is a great place to study journalism. We think it's very much like us, but it's very different.
It was my first really exposure to tabloid journalism in the UK, and that was really interesting. And I think the most fascinating part was journalism in Italy and how you have to be accredited and pass a test in order to become a journalist in Italy, which was super interesting and so unlike anything that would ever happen in America.
Well, there was RAI, which is a pioneering Italian network, and we got a chance to explore that amazing facility, the TV studios, with the top executive there.
Well, my favorite media trip that we did was Marie Claire Italia. Dr. Bill knew that I want to be a fashion journalist one day, so he arranged that for me so I could talk to the fashion editor there and get a tour of the offices, and it was really neat. We got to look at the beauty closet, we got to walk around to the web and social media department, the visual department, and learn about what each of their job entails.
My favorite news organization that we visited was CNN International.
This is CNN.
While we were there, we got to meet Christiane Amanpour, and she has been one of my biggest role models in journalism since I was in high school.
I really liked what Christiane said, but I really liked Jon Snow, how he just kind of moseyed in and sat down with us. We were like, oh, okay. And I think more of us knew who Christiane was, so we were more excited about that. It felt a little bit more impactful, and less of us knew who John was. So when he just kind of sat down with us, we're like, oh, okay, this guy's sitting with us. And then it turns out that he is, an anchor on a show of his own, and that he seems to be of a certain level in his career, and he still kind of moseys around the newsroom.
One of the members of German Parliament met us in his office that overlooked, in this beautiful glass building, overlooked the Reichstag building. He took us underground to where the Nazis would come and write on the walls and stuff. He took us underground in this special tour that only a couple hundred people have ever been through officially. We got up through the Reichstag building, got to see the Parliament, and then he gathered us all together and at the very end took us to his favorite sausage stand, and it was literally just like a hut on the side of the road with like no one at it. It looked super sketchy, but he was like, I swear that this is the best sausage in all of Germany.
I think one of the things they come away with from this trip is realizing the BBC is this great iconic place I've always heard about. CNN London Bureau is. But to actually go there and look around and say, well, this looks like my newsroom back at Cronkite News. I could do this. I can see myself there as an associate producer, or in the case of our great alum Samuel Burke, on the air.
Police are out on the streets of Paris to see if this will be the third night of drones hovering over us here in Paris.
Social media was actually what we were studying.
So we were required to tweet every day at a minimum. We were pushed to tweet whenever we were doing a story, whenever we went to a place that we were visiting for the trip.
Social media was huge. So we had to make Facebook posts in each country about our own topics. We had to do stand-ups and then post those on social media. We were constantly tweeting, Facebooking, Instagramming.
I like the Facebook mostly now because I've been able to go back and read my posts and I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. That was really cool. So it's kind of a social media book that has been put together where I can go back and remember what it was that we were doing.
So our daily life obviously changed day to day in each city.
Typically we'd get up early, eat breakfast at whatever hotel or place we were staying at, which was great because they were all, I mean, I missed the coffee from Italy so much. And then we would go to whatever outing it was and then have the whole afternoon to work on our own. So much like it is here on a reporting assignment, you go out and you find out who your sources are going to be and start contacting, or in our case, just go out and find kind of man on the street subjects. Report, write the story, try to do the Facebook post and the updates, edit with Bill and Susan until 11, sometimes go to bed and then get up early the next day and start all over.
I got to go out every day, not really knowing where I'm at, but just take on the day, take on the challenges, like do whatever the city gave me, basically. I got to just kind of be a little bit more fearless of walking up to people like, hey, you might not even talk to me, you might not even speak my language, but like, would you be able to sit for an interview? Can I just get your thoughts on this? So every day was like a little bit more exciting than the last.
I think the biggest struggle for me was I didn't really have any major journalism classes before going into the Cronkite Euro program. So it was a little intimidating being around people that, were in JMC 301 and 315 and had all this videography background, and I was like, well, I had 201 and we kind of learned how to write.
I was kind of pleasantly surprised at how well we did with our London story. I was kind of surprised that people were willing to talk to us since we weren't really representing a news outlet or anything. And I'm really pleased with the story that we found and how it related to the neighborhood we were staying in.
My favorite story that we did abroad was when we were in Italy. We did a story on the history of Pinocchio. The character Pinocchio was born in Italy, and wherever you go within the city of Milan or probably any other city in Italy is you see Pinocchio signs everywhere, whether it's at a cafe or a souvenir shop. So we interviewed a souvenir shop owner who had a bunch of little Pinocchio toys in her store.
Sports enthusiasts have done stories at Olympic venue sites, at soccer matches, all kinds of places. We had one team do something in a bakery that has been owned in Milan for generations, and so they were enamored, having ate there the first day in Milan, to see father, son, and grandfather all working in the same bakery, so they did a feature story on that.
I also really liked the day in London when we just kind of took our time to do touristy things, and we went to Big Ben and Westminster Abbey, and we ended the day at the London Eye.
My most touristy thing that I did when I was over there was I went to the Making of Harry Potter World.
My favorite memory that I have, my favorite touristy memory, is buying my first leather Italian handbag in Italy.
One really touristy thing that we did that I'm really glad that we did was the Berlin Wall. If I had gone by myself, I would have probably looked at like 4 slabs of the Berlin Wall and been like, cool, it's all on concrete. We did it, time to go somewhere else now. Just to say that I did it, and I went and I did the thing.
We got to see every major member of the royal family. We were in first row seats because we went to see something, an annual tradition called the Trooping of the Color, where the Queen and the princes and the duchesses all parade to Buckingham Palace.
I think seeing the sparkle in the student's eye the first time they see the Tower Bridge, the first time they see Big Ben, the times that they see the Eiffel Tower.
It was just such a short trip, but it honestly was so impactful.
I honestly could say like wholeheartedly that the Cronkite Euro trip was 100% worth the experience, not only because of the friends that I made and the places that I got to go, but which is always great in study abroad, and like that's like underlying what you're looking for is just like a good time. But journalistically, being able to say that I've been in so many different newsrooms across the globe, and being able to go into newsrooms of my own in America and say, like, you know, that's a really funny thing that, you know, German newspapers, they do this, and they're like, wow, how do you know that? It's like, oh, I've been there.
So you can read all the books you want about overseas. You can look at videos. You can attend lectures. But there's no experience like being there yourself, to smell it, to see it, to experiencing. That's why study abroad is so valuable.
Walter Cronkite was a global journalist. He may have spent most of his time at BlackRock in New York, at CBS, but of course he spent a lot of time overseas. He's been to those capitals, a lot of time in Vietnam, and in his own history in World War II. So I think there's a sense of internationalism that flows through the Cronkite School, literally from Walter. It's part of his heritage. So for us to have our students experience that is why we think it's important for students to do study abroad.